A few weeks ago, as my peach trees started to plump up their newly set fruit, I decided to test out an idea to wrap the growing peaches in nylon pantyhose to see if that would protect them from insect damage without having to spray. Had it worked out? It seems like the peaches are not being better protected because they're inside of the nylon. It's possible that I may have put the sock or the stockings around them too late when they had already been bitten by whatever insect bites them, or it's just not effective. The insects will still bite them. Several of them have died and fallen. There were a lot more peaches on the trees, but that's normal. That's May drop. You expect that a good portion of them drop, and the ones that are remaining are going to develop into juicy fruit by the summer's middle or early, depending on the type of variety you have. Now, because I am an amateur when it comes to fruit production, I'm still trying to figure out what things are. Of course, there are sprays, and that's what you're recommended to do, is to spray things. I just wanted to see if there are alternatives to spraying, because first, I don't want to be using sprays, even organic ones, and second, it's annoying to have to spray. So it might be inevitable, because it's just a fact of life. I know that all the temper fruits, like peaches and apples and pears, they tend to be very domesticated. So trying to make them produce without the usual regimen of sprays, it's a bit of a challenge, especially here in Maryland. I suppose that in places that have the perfect climate for these crops, they may grow naturally, but they're not native from here, so there's no reason to expect that they would have no problem growing. In any case, I like to push the boundaries of the fruit trees I'm trying to grow to see if they can just naturalize and produce enough. I'm not seeking perfection, but I'm seeking enough where I can just go and harvest. I don't like to be tending them too much. So I'll have to still figure things out. One of the challenges I noticed is because a lot of them, more than half of the early peaches drop, if you try to contain the small peaches, you just end up having bad ones inside of like the stockings. You don't know which ones are going to drop, and I've seen that several of them are empty because they don't have peaches, and other ones are growing with peaches inside. In any case, there is a tree over there that seems a little bit more promising in terms of insect bites. This tree was in the property before I got here. I discovered it was a peach tree when it flowered. This was not a tree that I planted. It happened to be here. In fact, I didn't even know these were peaches. Only later on did I notice that, yes, these were peaches. They were flowering, obviously, at the same time with the same type of flower. So they had to be peaches. The thing is, this year I had amazing weather. The pollination time was perfect. We had good weather. There were bees. So that's why I got so many peaches on the trees. Obviously, a lot of them fell, but in this one, it's still full of peaches. And they're looking much better than the other ones there were trees that I planted. Perhaps it's because it's older and it's gotten time to get used to the ground, get used to the conditions. I don't know. Maybe it's a wild peach, but I think it might have been planted. It's against the fence. Who knows if somebody threw a stone from a car and it grew. It's right close to the road. I don't think that's the case, but in any case, it's in a good place. It's getting sun, lots of sun throughout the day, so that might answer why it has this vigor. I just hope that I can taste it. I haven't been able to taste any of them. And if this year, because there's good fruit set, one of them ripens and I'm able to taste, and hopefully more than one ripens and I'm able to eat them, that's going to make my year. I would love to have my own peaches producing without much input from me, frankly. I can say that the pantyhose experiment was a complete failure. The non-protected fruit from the older trees looked perfect while almost everything inside the nylon sleeves withered and dropped. But for now, I still had hope that I would get some good peaches if nothing major happened. I'll be back right after this commercial. As the muggy 90-degree summer days arrived, something else threatened my peaches. One thing after the other keeps happening to the peach trees. Now, in the middle of summer, in a day where it's very muggy, upwards of 90% humidity, it happens that a tree falls on top of one of the peach trees that had a lot of peaches in it. That's probably not the end of the world. Hopefully it didn't break the tree. It had happened to one of the trees next to it previously, and it didn't break it. So I'll have to go look and see if any of the branches broke. Doesn't mean that I won't necessarily still have a peach production, but it's possibly one less tree. The other ones look fine. I'll just have to go there and clean up the mess in this really muggy day. Not looking forward to that. I was having no luck with my peach trees. In the previous season, a very similar thing had happened to the neighboring tree, knocking it down, almost breaking it. Peach trees must be flexible enough to bend but not break. The main issue was that I had planted out these in early spring before the large trees behind them had leafed out, and I had miscalculated how far and tall they actually were. I had not noticed that they were fast-growing weed trees. In fact, I could see that the fallen branch was the ailanthus tree. I could identify it by the winged seed clusters called samaras and by the leaf shape. These trees are invasive species that tend to grow too tall and fast for their own good, especially when competing for light amongst other trees. The peach tree still looked alive and was holding on to the peaches, but I had to get in closer to properly assess the damage. In a way, the peach tree I had planted would have a perpetual risk of injury by being so close to these fumbling giants. To get close enough to see the damage this fallen branch had caused to my peach tree, I had to first remove some of it away. I used heavy-duty loppers to cut out the twigs and branches to make it easier to haul it and collect them in a pile to rot away. Even though I was using heavy-duty loppers rated to cut branches up to 2 inches in diameter, it still was a struggle since some branches were thicker than that. So I had to use another tool. I got an old axe I had laying around and went about hacking the branches up. It is obvious I don't do this for a living, so I did what I could with what I had and surprisingly didn't get hurt in the process. It was way too hot and muggy to be using the handsaw to cut these branches. Besides, using an axe is always more fun, but do be mindful of your legs and feet. I had planted my fruit trees closer to the northwest edge of my property precisely because I wanted to maximize solar exposure for growing other things. In hindsight, I should have placed them at least 15 feet forward. As for the peach tree itself, it looked like it had only bent with the weight and not broken. I would probably have to prop it up later, like I had done with its sister tree that had suffered the same fate. Some fruit didn't look very healthy, however. The nylon experiment had failed and I was running out of hope. The good news is that the tree has not broken. The bad news is that the fruit are oozing this gel, which is probably sap, probably from some kind of insect bite or disease. I'll have to be a bit more scientific if I want to have peaches produce edible fruit for me. So I'll have to research this more carefully, not just do it intuitively as I usually like to. But that just brings a point home that growing fruit organically is a bit more difficult, especially these stone fruits. They are very domesticated and they have several diseases that afflict them, and you only get one try of one time a year that it fruits, so it's a long-term investment, and you have to know what you're doing. It's strange that the tree over there seems better. I don't know if it just seems like it's in a better situation in terms of health, or if it actually is. The fruit seem less afflicted by the oozing, but there's still some. It might be that it's already used to its condition. It's the trees I didn't plant, they were here already. Perhaps it's gotten used to the microbiome and that protects it somehow. Anyhow, I need to look further into this if I'm ever to try a peach. Hopefully at least some will ripen and be edible enough to try. But I don't know. Hope is the last thing to die, but it's starting to die at this point. Sometimes we exhaust all the options we have to solve a problem, and to add insult to injury, new problems coming out of the woodwork start to compound. All we can do then is to wait for a better resolution, and work during our part, while reflecting on how we can change things for when a new opportunity comes around. Will I get to harvest any peaches, or is this once promising crop doomed for failure? You will find out in the next episode. See you there.